when I think about legacy, I think about my parents and is what I'm doing making them proud? Is what I'm doing walking in God's will? Am I doing things that help people, or am I doing things that hurt people? We shouldn't waste any of these precious days hurting people. I don't care if someone hurt you or wronged you. Don't spend any energy on that. Let God take care of that.
Welcome to Be a Baller, where we're building a lifelong legacy for our families, communities, and the world. Your host, Coach Tim Brown, is excited for you to join him on this journey. On each episode, we'll be talking about how to be intentional about building a lasting legacy. We'll be exploring what it means to leave a mark that goes beyond just our lives, but has a positive impact on those around us and even generations to come. So, if you're looking for inspiration, guidance, and practical tips on how to build a lasting legacy that makes a difference, then you're in the right place. So grab your earbuds, get comfortable, and let's dive in. It's time to be a baller.
Welcome to Be a Baller podcast, where we're honored to have as our special guest, Sherri Hamilton, President and CEO of the Ohio Black Expo. As a dedicated servant leader driven by faith and not just sight, Sherri is making a significant impact in the community. With her extensive background in technology, innovation, and community development, she's leading the Ohio Black Expo to reclaim its title as one of the largest events of its kind in the region. Join us today as we explore Sherri's inspiring journey from her early days as a programmer analyst in the United States Air Force and her current role in leading the Black Expo. We'll discuss her experiences as, and I'm really excited about this, Black girls who code, and her love of music, line dancing, cooking, and traveling. We will discuss her vision for the future and how technology can be used to drive positive change. So let's get started on this journey. Welcome, Sherri Hamilton, to Be a Baller podcast.
Thank you for having me today. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Yeah, I am too about this. But before we get started, we got to talk about this line dancing and all this kind of thing. Now, you a professional line dancer, or?
I'm not going to make that claim. I did grow up with a dance background. I danced growing up, everything from ballet, jazz, and tap to liturgical, African, modern. I was on drill team.
Yeah.
So I love to dance.
Mm-hmm.
I won't claim the title as professional line dancer, but I do have a good time, and it's good exercise.
Good stuff. Speaking of growing up, you grew up in Columbus, Ohio, went to Walnut Ridge High School and all that. Can you talk about, I always ask the guests about the village who raised you, because it was a different time when we grew up. Can you talk about that village who raised you?
Absolutely. I'm telling my age, but it's okay. I won't hide it. I was born in the late 60s. So I was raised in the 70s and 80s, and it was a good time. It was an interesting time. There are a lot of things about those days that I miss, even though some would say those were tumultuous times. Mm-hmm. We're on the heels of the civil rights movement, and then went into the crack era when I was in high school. So there was a lot going on. But for me, there was a wonderful, beautiful village here in Central Ohio that I benefited from. My parents moved here in the mid-'60s from New York. They were both born and raised in New York. And so they quickly attached to some really great people, and they became our extended family. So I had all the, in our community, we have play cousins and aunties and uncles. I had plenty of those. And people that went on to prominence, city council and different spaces like that. So my village growing up, I would say, was a mix of our extended family as well as church family, different community organizations that my parents were a part of, really strong village, and then teachers. And that was a mix of cultural backgrounds as well. So, we lived not where we lived. It was more based on where I went to school. I went to a private school from kindergarten through, actually preschool, through 6th grade. And then I went to public school. I begged to go to public school. I want to go to public school with all my friends.
Right.
So that my school, my elementary school was very diverse. And then I entered public school. But I really had a great great experience with the village growing up.
Awesome. You mentioned faith in there. Can you talk about your faith journey and how it guides your work today?
Absolutely. My mother was a phenomenal musician. She played at Carnegie Hall when she was 5 and again when she was 8. So she was a gifted pianist. She studied vocal pedagogy at Juilliard. And so music was her life. And that she started playing in church when she was 15. She was the full-time organist for her church growing up, starting when she was 15. So my mother never missed a Sunday. I never missed a Sunday of church. There was no, I don't feel well,
Right.
There was, okay, well, you can sit there and be quiet. Here's a box of tissues, And so, faith to me was something that, when you're a child, you don't necessarily understand what's going on. You're in it more for the ritualistic things of, okay, it's time to stand up and pray. It's time to do this. It's time, to sing. But as you get older, I would say probably by the time I was a preteen, I felt more of a spiritual, that direct spiritual connection that I could identify. I'm not saying that was the first time I felt it.
Right.
That was the first time I could identify. And I knew when it happened, I felt that's God, that's my connection to God in this moment. And so my evolution, my spiritual journey has just become stronger, so that now I don't have to do those ritualistic things to pull God into my moment that I'm in. And it's important, I think, through life to lean on your faith, because we can't control what other people do. We can't control what happens to us. Well, we can. I'll talk about that later. But if we have that strong connection and we have that faith, we know that God is in control and everything is working on our behalf.
The Bible says this: all things work together, for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to His purpose. Yes. Sometimes we miss that, but as we go through life, some things will happen, and then we think, that's what that was for.
Exactly.
There's a purpose behind all of that, both the good and whatever happens. We know God's in charge. You kind of grew up in this technical space, in technology, going to Ohio State and going to the Air Force. And what was it like being a female in that area, and then also being a Black female during those times, because I'm sure it wasn't a popular thing. Were you one of those nerds in high school? Or?
I was.
I don't want to say that, but anyway.
Actually, in my role with the Ohio Black Expo, I'm so excited that we have a really great partnership with COSI. Growing up, I loved going to COSI, and I was a young fan of math and science. And I used to drive my parents crazy because they would buy me toys, and electronic toys were starting to become a thing by the time I was 9 or 10. But if they got me a little electronic toy, I would take it apart because I wanted to see how it worked. But I was able to put it back together properly and it still worked. So, but yeah, I've always had that curious math and science mind. And my internship when I was in high school was working in a mainframe room at Blue Cross Blue Shield, actually here in Worthington. And so, I've always been a geek.
Wow.
Yeah.
How was that experience? Were you sometimes the only Black female? How was that?
Yes. I would say 98% of the time that I was in the military and in the corporate world, I was either the only female, the only Black female, or both. The only Black person, or, it was very rare that I worked with someone else who was also a person of color, or someone else who was also a woman. It was very, very rare.
You sound like a Hidden Figures on here. You had to tell your story. I know you. Can you talk about that experience in the Air Force and some of the things you did there with technology and program analyst, and then you went on to work at Channel 10.
I did.
In that space. Can you talk about those experiences?
Yes. So I spent almost 6 years, just shy, like 5 years, 11 months in the United States Air Force. And I was a computer analyst. There's another name for it, communications, something computer system analyst. But I worked with mainframes back then. And so we were just transitioning from what they used to call dumb terminals to actually desktop computers. And I had the great experience of having to install desktop computer systems all around our base at the time. And so that gave me experience also with hardware. I already was getting great experience with software, but having to install those computers, I learned how to build computers. I still can build computers to this day. And so it was a great experience. And I served during Desert Storm. So there was quite a bit going on. And then Desert Shield became Desert Storm. So I was, I saw a lot. I learned a lot. I lived a lot, and thankful that I was protected and I was not put directly in harm's way. And so I'm grateful for that.
So coming back from that experience to Columbus and to Ohio, what sparked your passion for serving the African American community?
That started early, really by the example of my parents. My mother was an educator. She taught for 44 years in Columbus City schools. And that's after teaching in Brooklyn, in New York, where she was from. She taught the first couple years in the private school that I went to. And then she started at Mohawk. And yep, old Mohawk back in the day. And she was there in the early 70s and then went on to teach at other Columbus City schools. But she always led with wanting to teach life skills. She was a music teacher, but she didn't just teach music. She used music to teach life skills to all of her students. And she cared for all of her students in the same way. It didn't matter your background. She cared for them all in the same way. And then with my father, his background was in journalism and communications and marketing. But he also led with service, that mindset. And, he was early in the days with Mount Vernon Plaza. He used to hold events at the Focal Point, which was a big, place where Black people would gather. And so I just watched their example. And my dad, before he was had his own business at Mount Vernon Plaza, he worked at Lazarus, and he looked out for, he was in leadership there, and he looked out for a lot of the Black employees at the time. He really advocated for them. And just so they both kind of always led with doing for others and treating others the way you want to be treated. And so that's how I was raised.
So all this comes by kind of naturally for you.
It really does.
You're a co-founder of, is it Tana? I'm saying that right?
Tano Innovation, yes.
Innovation. You're co-founder of Tano Innovation. What inspired you to merge technology and creativity with community development?
I just see a need, especially in the Black community, for technology to solve some of the issues that we have. And again, because of my experience, what I didn't see working in the field of technology, I didn't see a lot of us. And so I feel that it's important for those of us that do have a technical background and understand technology and how to use it, that we use it to help empower our community.
Good. How did you become the president and CEO of Ohio Black Expo? I know that's a story.
That's a story. So our founder, Rhonda D. Robinson, created the Ohio Black Expo in 1988. And she did that after having the Columbus Black Expo in the 80s. I believe from 1980 or 81 through 87. It was the Columbus Black Expo, took place at the Focal Point in Mount Vernon Plaza.
All right.
It was before coming home. So when the expo left the Focal Point and moved downtown, because it continued to grow and grow and grow, outgrow the space, that's when coming home started. So it became the Ohio Black Expo, and she noticed people were coming not only from all over the state, but all over the nation. And she had major speakers and performers come here at the time. And I did research to learn more about those early days, because I would have been a teenager then. But I found that it was the largest, it was written up in the dispatch as the largest event of its kind at the time. That was an article I found in 1991. But she approached my husband and I because we were having community events. Again, not for any other reason, but just wanting to serve. We weren't making money from this or anything, but we just had meaningful community events. And she would always come to them. And she walked up to us one day and said, "I'm Rhonda D. Robinson, founder of the Ohio Black Expo, and you're the ones that are going to help me bring it back." And we're like, "What are you talking about?" But flash forward, I believe that God was orchestrating things and made her realize, because she realized there was a need for it to come back. It was originally created to support and amplify Black businesses and organizations, and there's still a need for that today. And she saw that, and she just realized before she leaves this earth, she wanted to see it come back. And so she literally kind of chose us, and it took us a few years to get to know her more and decide that we were going to commit ourselves, because we don't have to anything. If we're going to do something, we're in it. Right. And so we had to really evaluate, is this something we can do full force? And we finally made that decision and got to work.
What was that turning point that made you guys realize? What was it about that conversations with her and just the need? What was it? What was that turning point when you guys realized that, hey, we need to do this?
I think we thought about the work that we were already doing in the community and realizing that this would be an opportunity to do it at a larger scale, because we were doing it, very local and in smaller groups, maybe 200-300 people when we would have events. And we thought, you know what? Being able to do this work, positive work, and do it in front of thousands of people and attract people from all over is really going to further what we feel is our purpose-driven work to empower and support our people. And so it kind of was a no-brainer. We did have to pray about it because we knew it was going to be a lot, and it is.
How do you see the Ohio Black Expo's work contributing to the broader conversation about equity and inclusion in this region, not just Ohio, but in the whole region? How do you see Ohio Black Expo contributing to that?
I think in a lot of ways, there are several different touch points that address that. So one is cultural enrichment. And so unfortunately, the Black community has a reputation of negativity. And it's just not true. Right. We know as a people that we're not innately negative, that we're not innately connected to violence and crime and all of these other labels that we're given. And so we work really hard to help both internally and externally people to know that that's not us. This is us. And so we bring thousands of people together. We have never had an incident of violence. We've never had any issues. And we have, on average, about 12,000, 13,000 people a year. And so we're happy to show people that though that's not true, that depiction of us. So that's one way. Another way is just helping our people to understand who we are through our culture. And, the Ohio Black Expo celebrates all cultures throughout the diaspora. So you will see people from Africa, directly from the continent that are here in various countries. You'll see people, Caribbean people. So we've had Afro-Brazilians that participated. We've had people from Ghana participate. We had some artists from Somalia last year that performed. We have Caribbean culture. So this year we'll have soca dancers that have, everything that's worn during Carnival. And of course, African-American culture. Right. So we celebrate with everything from gospel to R&B, jazz, funk, go-go, every music genre you can think of, every dance type you can think of. And it's just a celebration. And so when we're talking about equity, at the foundation of our organization is empowerment. And so that empowerment comes through the 100 plus Black vendors that you'll see out there. And they are not only making money during the expo, and those numbers are nearing $1 million. But on top of that, they get long-term customers that support them throughout the year. And we have a new initiative that's going to bolster that even further. And so, we have the mindset that we have to build internally. And by building internally, that helps us to get what we need to not feel like we have to lean on DEI per se. And so while I think certainly it's important to have things in place that create lanes of opportunity where doors are normally closed to us just because of who we are, we also at the same time have to build. And that's what Ohio Black Expo is about.
It sounds like you've kind of bridged that gap, bringing in everyone together. How have you been able to accomplish that, bringing all these groups together?
I think just by approaching from a true place of wanting to bring us together in unity and in a positive way, in a collaborative way. We move in a sense of collaboration over competition. We don't see competition with any other person or any other group, and that's not out of arrogance. That's because we truly want to amplify and help every organization. So we don't look at other organizations and say, you're doing that, I can do that better. No, it's like, how can we come together and help each other? What is the win-win situation that's going to help your organization grow and help our organization continue to grow? Let's work together to help our people. And so that's, when we approach that way and just from a genuine place, I think people feel that and they're happy to be connected to what we're doing.
Wow, that's a good word. That's a good word. What advice would you give to young leaders who are just starting their journey, particularly those from underrepresented communities?
I think the biggest advice I would give is to find what you're passionate about. That's very important. There's a saying, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I believe that to be true. And I feel blessed right now to be in that space, right? I can't say that every job or every part of my career has been that way, but I find myself in a place now where everything that I've done up to this point has given me the tools that I need. We talked about it earlier. Every adversity that I've had, every stumbling block that I've had has added tools to my tool belt. And so, I think really find what you're passionate about, hone that skill and that craft, and you'll be successful. The success will come if you're doing what you love to do every day. So I think just identifying that. We actually have a youth program for that. Okay. It's called the Dream Path program. But nice. Identify what gives you joy. And there's, I'm sure, a career attached to that.
As your organization's mission is to improve the quality of life for African Americans in Ohio, can you share, and when you just kind of mentioned a few of those, can you share some specific initiatives or programs that have made a significant impact on the community?
Sure. So I spoke about what we are doing to help businesses and business owners. 98% of the businesses, I think 98 to 99% of the businesses in America are categorized as small businesses. Those small businesses make up almost half of the workforce in this nation. Wow. However, when you look at the stats for Black small businesses, it's really, really tough. Within the first 1 to 2 years, most Black businesses go out of business. I think that's 98% of Black businesses are out of business in the first 1 to 2 years. 96% of Black businesses have no employees. And so it's someone trying to operate in their dream and they don't get to the point where they grow enough to be able to hire employees. And so we see that as extremely important to our community because we will hire, people hire who they look like just by human nature. And so the unemployment rate for our community is double. And a way to take a stab at that is by building up our businesses. So that's one piece. And we have business education and resources built in. Our youth empowerment programming is very strong. We have a youth initiative with COSI right now for youth and families, where families can get a free annual membership to COSI. And I talked about how COSI influenced my life. That's even more important now. There was no STEM when I went into it. Right. And so we also have our youth programming, our Dream Path programming, and our Learning Labs programming that help youth with learning who they are, and then also identifying career pathways and giving them the tools and the resources to get there. So those are just a few. There's a whole list on our website at OhioBlackExpo.com, but those are some really important ones. And that's our festival, our big annual festival. That culminates everything that we do. It's an exciting time and celebration. But a lot of people think that's all that Ohio Black Expo is. It's an event, but it's so much more.
More an event. You know, there's probably some young people listening to this today. Could you share with some young girls about STEM? You know, and it's cool to be in STEM. Or can you encourage a young lady who's probably has some interest in science and doesn't see an opportunity? Can you share a word of encouragement to them?
Absolutely. One of the exciting things that I think about with STEM now is just the access. Yes. Again, I started at a time where there was no internet that was accessible. There weren't all these easy things that you can get to learn. But I would say if you have interest in science, if you have interest in math, don't shy away from that. Don't try to hide it. Yeah. Don't think that you're not cool if you're getting good grades. Right. Don't feel that way, because it's more than cool, and for me, being able to say that I'm a Black girl who codes, I love it. I can create. I feel like the sky's the limit. I don't feel like there's anything that I can't create, because I've made up my mind to design and create things that people would say there's no way you can do that, and I've done it. And so don't shy away from that. STEM is here to stay. It's only going to continue to become more of everyday life. And so I have never struggled to find work, having a technology background. I've never, if I've gone from one city to another or one job to another, I've never looked for more than 3 days to find work. And have multiple offers. Okay. So, and again, that was at a time where it wasn't even the most prevalent thing. So I would encourage any young girl who's thinking about going into technology, medicine, engineering, science, any of that, go for it.
And that's coming from a drill teamer.
That's right.
One of the cool girls at school, in that space.
Absolutely.
This is a legacy podcast, and we talk about building a lifelong legacy. What do you hope people take away from your legacy, and how do you yourself want to be remembered?
That's a good question. When I think about legacy, I think about my parents, and is what I'm doing making them proud? Is what I'm doing walking in God's will? Am I doing things that help people? Or am I doing things that hurt people? We shouldn't waste any of these precious days hurting people. Don't do it. Just don't. I don't care if someone hurt you or wronged you. Don't spend any energy on that. Let God take care of that. You focus on what's good and helping people, because it always comes back to you. So when I think about legacy, I would hope people think of me as someone who makes Jim and Joyce Robinson proud. Those are my parents. And someone who has been helpful and has made space for others to do good work. And so that's what I think about when I think of legacy. And when I want to inspire young people, I want to remind them, there's a saying that keeps me going, and it's the best way to predict your future is to create it. Wow. And so What that means to me is...
Say that one again. I don't want them to miss that one.
Absolutely. The best way to predict your future is to create it. And so life, the modern term for this is life is always going to life, right? Things are always going to happen. If you think you're going to walk out there and every day is going to be sunshine and rainbows, you're setting yourself up for a life of pain. Right. So realize that life is going to life, and don't let life toss you back and forth like a balloon where the air is popping out. Like you have the ability to chart your path. So if you make a decision, yes, this bad thing happened to me. If you make a decision that I'm going from here to there, and then you make a plan to get from here to there, and you work that plan, it's going to work. So don't sit back saying, I wonder if I'm going to be successful. I wonder if this is going to happen. I wonder if that's going to happen. Make it happen. Make the plan. Write the vision, right? Make it plain, and then walk in it.
That's it. That's a good word. This has been a great conversation, as we kind of wrap up. What's next for Ohio Black Expo, and how can our listeners get involved and support the organization?
Absolutely. A number of ways. All of it can be found on OhioBlackExpo.com, but we have our big annual event coming up. It's the Ohio Black Expo Riverfront Culture Fest. Takes place downtown behind COSI, right on the riverfront. It's May 24th and May 25th, which is Memorial Day weekend. But it kicks off on Friday with our youth summit, Friday evening. And then we also have some adult activities, kickoff activities, networking for Friday evening. But anything that you can think of is happening inside of those gates. It is a true festival. Everything from health and wellness with yoga and free health screenings, and Root, which is one of our sponsors. They are helping with maternal and infant mortality. They have a 0 mortality rate when it comes to families. And then the Columbus Crew will be out there with some activities. We have marching bands and drum lines and dance teams and local entertainment and national entertainment. We have some national entertainers on Saturday night, Sunday night. COSI will be out there with science kits. It's just a great time. Food trucks. The food is amazing. So we want people to come out and join us Memorial Day weekend. Go to OhioBlackExpo.com for tickets. Donate if you feel so moved. On our website, on our About page, you see all of our programs and initiatives. You can donate, and you can designate where that donation goes if you want to. And you can volunteer. We have a volunteer form at the bottom of the website. But more than anything, come out and join us. Get your tickets. Children 10 and under are free, and inspire others to do the same.
Nice. Well, Sherri, I want to thank you for your time, and I want to thank you for making your parents proud. Mention that. I'm sure they are so proud of you. The little girl tearing up toys or whatever, taking toys apart, and look at her now and the spaces that is taking you to. Yeah. And I want to thank you for being a trailblazer. When we think about those spaces that you've been in, you've kind of been that only one. And you have really blazed a trail for others to encourage others. So when young girls are looking for opportunities in science and technology, I always say this: you can't be what you can't see.
That's right.
Now they see somebody, who's done it. So now they can be encouraged to do it themselves. Absolutely. So I want to thank you for all that. But most importantly, I want to thank you for being a mighty woman of God. Trusting God and putting God first. And we can see the Bible says this: seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and then all things will be added on to you. And I'm so thankful that God's adding all these things to you, and even more. And I'm just so proud of you for saying yes to taking over the Ohio Black Expo and taking it to another level. So I want to thank you for being a guest today. And for the audience, please listen to the podcast, subscribe, and continue striving to be a baller. Continue building a lifelong legacy. So thank you, Sherri, for being part of the show today.
And thank you for having me. And I want to thank my husband. I'm representing both of us today, but we work side by side. He worked so hard on this with me, and just thankful to be in this position.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with family and friends. The Be a Baller podcast is available on all major podcast platforms. This podcast was created by Coach Tim Brown and recorded and edited by the video production class of Worthington Christian High School. Be sure to come back next week as we continue to discuss on how to build a lifelong legacy. Until then, don't forget to be a baller.